Hi everybody, welcome to Celeste TV. Today I'm very excited to have with me Benjamin Loh, who is a public speaking coach. Now, Benjamin Loh is the founder of Speaker's Flair, which is a training and communications consultancy. He has clinched 5 championship titles and 2 runner-up titles in Toastmasters contests. And he has trained over 1,000 clients in the past 5 years in the area of public speaking and communications. So let us start off with the first question. What got you into this area of public speaking?
I was very much glued to the television when I was much younger, and I would notice the inter-varsity debates about how varsity students will be backing their wits off and really trying to make sense in front of the stage, in front of the camera. And I think a huge part for me was how they could be so confident, so charismatic, and so convinced about what they were saying, and yet not feeling at all anxious or nervous even in front of the audience or in front of the camera. And I think at that point in time I asked myself, could I be one day also standing in their positions, in their shoes, presenting and speaking in front of a public audience? And I think that started my entire journey.
Okay, it is often said that public speaking is one of the greatest fear for many people, even more so than death itself. Why do you think that's the case, Ben?
Some of us are not comfortable with ourselves, including our voice, our body features, or how we present ourselves to the external world. Some of us may not be comfortable in terms of looking at people in the audience because we have certain voices in our head, certain conversations, judgments and whatnot.
How would you advise these people?
Normally how I work with my clients is first finding out the source of your fear. So if your fear is really a general fear of maybe connecting with people, so what you want to do is really to start small first. So maybe 1 to 3 people and then to 5 people. And then what you want to do is proceed to maybe a safer platform. And a safer platform could mean anywhere from speaking to, if you're in a corporate setting, you could do maybe a team sharing. So you could volunteer to say, to summarize the minutes for the last week's meeting. So at least, you are presenting to a group of people who are comfortable with you, who know you, who give you the kind of leeway to make mistakes. I mean, that's one. Or you could go to a public setting, which is Toastmasters, whereby you could do impromptu speeches, about 2 to 3 minutes. And the people there are very encouraging because all of us are there to learn about public speaking. And we are there to really make more mistakes, because the more mistakes you make gives you more areas and windows to look at the different kind of faults, the different kind of blind spots about yourself as far as public speaking is concerned. And then progressively you build yourself towards the bigger stage.
I love the fact that you're saying start small and then build it up from there, because most people have no difficulty with 1-to-1 context or even 1 to 3, 1 to 2, 1 to 3.
Yeah.
But when it comes to 1 to 50, 1 to 100, it becomes so much more intimidating. So what will help is that just to build up from the audience size that you're comfortable with.
Correct.
So let's say you're comfortable with an audience of 3, then just add on 4, 5. And then if you're comfortable with 5, then just build it on to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and suddenly it's not so intimidating when you start building on from there.
One of the common biggest objections that some of my clients come throwing at me is they always think that if you're speaking to 1, 2 or 3 people, that's not public speaking, that's more like conversation. But we forget that day-to-day conversation is really public speaking in its finest, in the lowest common denominator. So if we could master on a very small scale and very small dynamic, it's just a matter of amplifying it to larger scale.
I love that. So thinking about your everyday conversations as already a public speaking experience in itself, and then building it on from there.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the most common public speaking issues that people face, and how would you advise them to overcome that?
Some of my clients, when they come to me, they're not clear. So as a result of not being clear, they often use information as a way to conceal their lack of clarity or lack of certainty. And what results as an endpoint is they'll pack their slides, their presentation, or their sharing with a lot of content, and they'll flood their entire slides with a lot of bullet points or paragraphs, and they start to read from it. That makes them feel as if I am prepared, but that doesn't mean that necessarily that they know that stuff.
And how would you advise people to then address this issue?
You need to be clear about why you're presenting it. So in terms of why, it could be, are you presenting in a way that your objective is to inform? So if it's an informational speech, what you want to do is really to back in a way such as engaging. It gives information on bite sizes so that people can absorb it. If your objective is to persuade, to inspire, you need not pack it too much information, but you may want to structure it in such that it involves more stories, involves the reasons by why you are personally convinced as to the subject matter.
What would you say is the second greatest public speaking?
So the second one, the first one was a clarity problem. The second one, I would guess, is an engagement problem. The speaker himself or herself is disengaged or disconnected. So it could be you know about religion and you say the topic could be religion is a way towards world peace. So you know that how it works, but you may not agree with it. So the lack of agreement will come from and manifest in your speech as a way in that you appear very incoherent. You don't sound very confident, the parts don't gel together, it doesn't flow together, it's not logical.
Right, like maybe you comprehend it mentally, but emotionally there's no resonance, and because of that you're not able to deliver it in a coherent manner. Then how would you advise people who have to deliver speeches that they don't believe in?
Take out parts or pieces of it which you feel very strongly for. So for example, if I'm a salesperson and I'm supposed to pitch about the viability of say forex instruments, and I am not fully convinced by it, but what I could do is I could say for a very certain, one very certain is I believe in management. So I could tell a story about how the management is a very solid team and whatnot. So at least I could frame my presentation in a way that it still flows from space of conviction, and then someone else takes over to sell the product, for example.
So essentially in the presentation that you don't feel any resonance with, focus on the areas where you do have certain resonance with, and then build on from there, such that you're able to deliver it in a more coherent and convincing manner. So what would you say are the strategies for someone who wants to be a great public speaker?
First and foremost is being comfortable with your own self. If you can't keep yourself in check, then you're just a nervous wreck on stage. So it could be, start small again. So you could get a friend to maybe record you speaking just in front of the camera. And then if voice or hearing yourself is a huge factor, start to plug in your iPod and listen to yourself speak. Listen yourself to a certain extent whereby you're totally having no issues about that's my voice, and then you're listening to it and say, that's my voice. So there's this neutrality, there's no more negativity to all the different parts and aspects of yourself. So that's the first part.
Being comfortable with yourself, even from listening to your voice, seeing how you present. I love how you talk about recording yourself, because I think when you do that, you record yourself presenting and then you review that presentation. You can see so many things about yourself that maybe you're not privy to. Like maybe you like to scratch yourself, or like touch your fringe or touch your hair, or maybe there are certain words that you tend to repeat when you're giving a presentation, and these are things that only come to light when you're looking at the recording itself.
Correct. The second thing I would recommend is practice. So there's a lot of authors that actually write on how the way to mastery, for example by Malcolm Gladwell, he writes quite a lot in terms of how masters become masters is they dedicate and invest 10,000 hours of conscious and deliberate practice in a certain field to gain mastery. Darren LaCroix, one of the world champion public speakers, he sums up the way to become a great public speaker as in 6 words. So these 6 words are stage time, and stage time. So stage time is, as the words suggest, is really the time you spend on stage. I mean, you don't just walk around on stage, but you really have to speak on stage in front of an audience. So if you want to become a good speaker, you just have to force yourself, throw yourself on stage, deliver whatever speeches. If there's a company function or if there's a class event where someone needs a host, volunteer for it. So even though a host isn't necessarily about giving speeches, but you are actually orchestrating and facilitating an event, it gives you the stage time to be in front of an audience. Or someone may need someone to, say, facilitate a dialogue. So although you're not the one giving the speeches, you're not the VIP, you're not the guest of honor, but you are still in front of the stage, you're still having a bit of stage time.
I love that you're talking about the 10,000 hours, because that's something that I talk about on PE as well. Clocking the hours, right? Essentially it's just about clocking the hours. Even going back to the previous point that we're talking about, remember that every single conversation that you're having every single day is already practice in itself. It's just practice at a very minuscule level. And when we think about that and we imagine every conversation that we have every day as a public speaking event, then that's already practice, and then we can just build on from there, increasing the audience and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
Another thing that I tend to do in my speeches, which helps me, is that I see my audience as my friends. And I think a lot of people tend to be very scared of public speaking because they see this bunch of people who are strangers to them, and that's totally valid. But if we recognize them that as friends and they are here to listen to the speech, I mean, after all, they are taking their time out to be sitting there, right? They're not trying to bring you down or put you down. They want to hear what you have to say. And recognizing them as friends will actually help you to ease into the space itself.
That's an excellent point, Celeste, because I think a lot of us, we think of public speaking as just going there, setting up our tools, our laptop, slides, music, AV, and then we speak. But a lot of us don't see public speaking as also a whole relationship, as a process in the building. So what I would normally suggest my clients to do is say about 15 minutes before the speech actually starts, set up your tools first, your AV, your laptop, and start to speak to a few other people. Get to know a bit more about themselves, what brought them to this event, why are they here? Are they forced by the company, or do they have a choice? So if they're forced, that gives you a bit more leeway to, assure them and tell them, say, how your speech will add value to them. So from their stories, you give a bit more understanding about why your audience is here. And then you could draw a quote. You could say, before my talk, I was actually speaking to Emily. And Emily tells me that she has a huge issue with looking at people whenever she has to speak in front of a public setting. So how many of you have issues, like someone like Emily, having the whole conversations of fear about looking at people in the eyes? And then you can use Emily as an example. And then after that, you could thank Emily. So I just want to acknowledge and thank Emily for sharing this very heartfelt, this very simple message.
I love that you're talking about going to the speech earlier, like 10-15 minutes before, and rather than focusing on that presentation as this functional thing that you must deliver in that 1-2 hours, when you go 10-15 minutes earlier and you sort of just talk to like 4 or 5 people, you're already building the bond with those 4 or 5 people. And then later on, leveraging on that during the speech, like by asking the question, say, okay, so how many people are like Emily? Or it's kind of like mapping, so like you're extending that bond from that 4 or 5 people and extending it to the whole audience, and not just building a relationship between you and them, you're also building a relationship within the audience itself, which then makes it a whole cohesive community. Okay, so Ben, one question for you. Humor in speeches, is it necessary? What do you think about it?
I feel humor is not necessary. If you want to be humorous as a speaker, first be interested as a speaker. Work on how you are first invested and interested in the topic first, and then when you're comfortable, you're proficient in delivering in a way such that it shows your enthusiasm, your energy in that whole, and your conviction in the whole speech, and then humor comes on top of a cherry on the short cake kind of thing.
I think it's also very important to be true to who we are as a person. So if fundamentally you're just a very serious, stoic person, then just be that and let that shine through in the speech itself, and maybe that itself is humorous to your audience.
And that can be the point of humor, because some people thrive on deadpan humor.
So for my example, like people often say that I talk very fast and all, and I just think it as a part of who I am. I mean, as long as I'm not talking so fast and nobody can understand what I'm saying, like I'm perfectly fine. I think it's a core of who I am. So sometimes I bring that into my speeches itself. So at the beginning I'll be like, which of you thinks that I talk very fast? And everyone will be laughing because people obviously have picked up that I talk fast, but it's still understandable and nobody have issues with it. Sometimes I just talk about certain things in a very matter-of-fact way, but people still laugh because they find that it resonates with them emotionally and so on and so forth. And so I think like the best way is being yourself, being true to yourself, and then I guess humor, everything will just naturally flow into place rather than forcing yourself to be humorous for the sake of it. Okay, so Ben has very generously offered his 1-hour coaching service to 2 lucky viewers of Celeste TV, and each session is worth 200 USD, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so if you would like to be entitled to the giveaway, you just have to follow these 3 simple steps. Okay, the first step is to subscribe to the channel, which is youtube.com/Celestine Chua. The second is, now that you've watched this video with all the great public speaking tips that Ben has shared with you, what do you think it takes to be a great public speaker? Now post a comment to this video sharing your answer. And last but not least, share this video with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, which is youtube.com/Celestine Chua, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!
Bye!